All right, guys, this is Dark Side with Vital MX. Tonight, I've got one of the most legendary mechanics ever in the history of our sport, my buddy, Mike Goose Gosselaar. What's up, Mike?
No, not much. Just getting home from work.
Yeah, and I want to get to that, what you're doing now. And I'm not going to get into a ton of your history because it's been done so many times with Mathis and numerous other places. I do, like, you've got, just history-wise, you have 13 titles, I believe. Is that right?
I don't have 13 titles. I was part of, riders' careers that won 13 championships.
Well, I mean, I feel like that you have those titles to some degree. I was kind of...
I mean, there's a lot of people involved,
Yeah.
I'm just one of them.
Well, you're a big... Yeah, that's something I noticed from all your interviews and talking to you is you're very... like, there's no ego, right? You're very just, what's the word I'm looking for?
How about regular?
Yeah, I guess so. You're a regular guy. Like, you don't, but I feel like maybe you don't take enough credit for what you accomplished at that level of the sport. It's very intense. Everything has to work, and you didn't have very many failures, man. I mean, that's the sign.
Well, there's a lot of luck involved too, being in the right places, right time, right people.
Yeah.
Just a lot of things, but I mean, there's a lot of guys out there that put in hard work and they don't, win a championship or be part of a championship.
That is true. That is true. I think it's a very cool thing though about your personality is that there is no ego with you.
I hope not.
So the one thing going back to the beginning of your story that I know you've told us before, I do want to touch on because I just think it's kind of fun is like, you literally started out working for the CHP chip style. And I was listening to one of your old Mathis pods and you were like, yeah, they were actually still filming chips when you were working there.
Yep.
So like, I want to know, did you ever get to meet Ponch or John?
Oh yeah. I mean, the footage they shot from inside the shop was the shop I worked in. So they'd come through there, and kind of do their rehearsals and stuff and talk to you for a little bit. And yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was right there. It was in a very big place.
That's pretty cool because I mean, like I was a kid growing up watching that show and just like loved it. Like, so that's pretty neat that you got to be a part of that. I think for me at least, it's cool. But yeah, so that led into obviously your professional career. You started with Honda, but what I kind of want to just talk about is looking back on your career, as impressive as it is. I mean, you mentioned luck, right? A lot of great riders, a lot of luck, but like, what are your fondest memories of just starting out, getting in the industry and being a part of, what became like just this great sport?
I know there's so many cool things. I mean, just even going to work for Honda, initially and looking at, like the superpower team at that point.
Yeah.
It was always Honda. And getting an offer from them to go to work for them. It's like, is this for real? And, but there's a lot of different things, motocross the nations events and championship events and certain races. I mean, it's just, there's a lot that went on in the, I think roughly about 25 years I did it.
Yeah. Like you got in through Dave Arnold and his brother, I believe, right? That's kind of how you got your in with Honda. And Dave, of course, the legendary part of Team Honda.
Yep, kind of still is once in a while.
Yeah, true. And at that time, Honda was the place to be, right? I mean, there was nothing, like all the cool stuff came from, Honda of Japan.
I know, I worked at a Yamaha dealer before working for the CHP, so I was always riding Yamahas. I never had any Hondas. And I kind of always looked at them like, gosh, these guys, they got so much money. They buy everything. They buy the best of everything, best riders, best bikes. And then I'm, get an offer to go work for them. It's just ironic.
Yeah, kind of a little, like maybe a dream or fantasy come true, right? When you're thinking about it, like if you're a young guy and you're like, oh, I would love to get into the industry, like Honda was the place you'd want to go. And that's where you went.
Right. And getting the opportunity for a few years to drive box vans around the country and having a really close relationship with the other mechanics on the team and the riders on the team and just totally different times,
Yeah, I actually have that in my notes. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, just so many different things you could do during the week. Your bosses didn't even know where you were at, didn't even care, as long as everything was right when they showed up at the races. And that's all that mattered. So we got to stay in some really cool places and do a lot of adventurous stuff. And, we're kind of like on our own, it's before cell phones.
Yeah. Before cell phones, GPS, social media, et cetera. Like, yeah, I've heard stories with, again, with Steve and Pulp and like talking about like himself and other mechanics. They might find a track somewhere and then unload the factory bike and go throw some laps in, or just like stuff that would never happen today.
Right. I mean, when I was working on the 125 stuff, they encouraged me to take the bike out and break it in and rip it back apart, make sure everything was good, but to go ride the thing. And at that point, I was still riding quite a bit and racing. So it's pretty awesome riding, some national champions' personal bike.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
That is awesome. So again, with all the riders you worked with, what would be Steve Lamson, Ezra Lusk, Ricky Carmichael, Chad Reed, Ryan Dungey. I mean, just some of the best riders in the world. Some guys that like Ezra probably had more talent than obviously he didn't accomplish what he should have.
Right.
But of those guys, who was the most impressive to you as a whole, whether it be talent, testing, just everything as a whole? Who was the most impressive?
Gosh, that's a tough question. I mean, they all had certain traits that were just, better than most people.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to pick just one guy. But I mean, every one of them you worked with, you enjoyed working during that time, being part of their program.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really hard. I don't even want to, be put on the spot like that to where.
Okay.
I've found one of the other guys, that's still, pretty close with all my riders in a way still.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
What about to me, Dungey coming basically straight out of the B class and what he did with the opportunity he was given is one of those things that I think's massively impressive, because he wasn't like a super highly touted A rider. He was just a B rider that Roger saw something in and then did just unimaginable almost things with what the opportunity was given.
That's pretty amazing, because I didn't work with him until he jumped onto the 450s. And I remember having a meeting with him and his manager, and they were talking about a bonus structure, like if he got first or second or third, what did it pay out? And I'm thinking, yeah, a rookie, I'm probably never going to see a bonus this year.
Yeah.
And how I was pretty wrong on that one.
Yeah, you were, right? But I think, I feel like most people were. Like, I don't think very many people, other than Roger, really. I wonder what the higher ups above Roger were thinking with that decision.
Yeah, I'm not sure. After Anaheim won, I remember I talked to Larry Ward quite a bit. And I remember talking to him, and he said, "You know what? That was pretty amazing what he did." And he goes, "You know what? That guy's going to go places." I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, when he crossed over the finish line after getting second in his first 450 race, he just rolled over the finish line, didn't pump his hands, didn't do anything. I can't believe I got second." He goes, "You watch. He's gonna really be doing things." And he's pretty much right on.
Yeah, he definitely was. I mean, how do you feel about the fact that he's back now? And no, he's not on the podium, but the guy after 5 or 6 years out of the sport is, still putting amazing finishes in and almost podiumed at High Point.
I know, it's pretty amazing. I'm pretty impressed. Just, you figure he's always had the speed. He didn't quit when he was on the downhill side, and I'm sure he stayed fit. So, to be that talented and run amongst the best guys we have, it's a pretty amazing thing.
Yeah, definitely. He's one of those guys that should be on the Mount Rushmore of the moto. The question they asked a couple years ago outdoors. Yeah, you're fine. All right. So I asked you, and you didn't really want to give me an answer on who was the most impressive. But how about who was the most? I was going to say most difficult, but I don't think you'll answer it that way. Who was the most challenging to work with as far as testing? Because I feel like it'd probably be Chad Reed, but maybe I'm wrong.
You're probably pretty close there.
Okay.
Chad is always searching for, just a little bit better, always trying to make things better. And he's pretty tech savvy, so he understands quite a bit of things. So that might have been one of the most challenging ones, because we had our own team and we were kind of on our own.
Yeah.
And so we had to figure things out, make it work.
Do you feel like sometimes that, we won't have to necessarily single him out, but sometimes over testing might be a detriment? Because Daniel Blair, I've heard him say you got to get the bike to 90% and then you kind of need to just go ride it and do the rest with the rider. But Chad he could have a bike that's 98%, but he wants that extra 2. And sometimes maybe you go the wrong way. Yeah,
but you never know until you try it.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to try things. You have to be innovative and take some chances and try things out.
Okay, good point. You're right. Yeah. Hey, did you find that?
I mean, there's two sides of the coin, but
yeah.
If you can't tell the guy, no, we're done. We're not going to test anymore. It's as good as it's going to get because you just never know.
That's true. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. I bet there was days where you wanted to be like, listen, dude, let's go home.
Yeah. Well, we tested a lot of things a few times, Like I say, you always learn from testing. It's just part of the job.
Did you enjoy that part, that really technical side of trying to find that 1%?
Sure. I mean, when you do find something really small that makes a big change, it's like, wow, you would never have guessed that would do, what it did.
Yeah.
And so it feels good when you make an improvement like that.
Right on. All right. So here's another question with you. You went to Suzuki really at probably the height of the company with RC, and I think you were there with Reed and Dungey for a little bit, I believe. And right now it kind of seems like Suzuki is not that interested in racing. They're not putting a lot of effort in. It seems like from the outside. Haven't really advanced the bikes in a little while. Are you at all surprised at that?
Yes and no. I mean, we know when Ricky went over there talking to some of the salespeople, they didn't really sell many more bikes. And, Ricky's winning everything.
Oh, okay.
And so, I don't know if it's a perception that people get about certain brands. But you think back, like in the 80s and stuff, how, Suzuki was a huge powerhouse when it came to production bikes. And I don't know where that, changed. But yeah, if you're not selling products, you're not making money, it's hard to go spend money. And like I said, when we were there with Ricky, their sales didn't really change a whole lot.
I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is. It doesn't make sense. But, when I first went to work for Honda, they were even telling me, we don't get our money from selling motorcycles. It comes from elsewhere. And most of our bikes that we sell don't even become race bikes. We sell a lot of bikes that people just enjoy riding motorcycles. And it doesn't come from sales to racers.
Right.
So there's a whole bunch of it in the marketing side of things that, we probably don't see or understand.
Yeah, so I guess
goes on. But if you're not making the money, you can't go racing. Racing budgets are huge.
Right. Yeah, it's funny because I've always heard, race on Saturday, sell on Monday. And it's kind of almost sounding like that's not always the case. And maybe that's just.
I don't believe it is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm very surprised by that because I've just always been led to believe that was the case. I mean, look when Dungey and Roger went to KTM, their sales just went crazy. But yeah, I guess it's hard to say what plays into what factors play into all that.
There's a lot of them. I mean, you look at KTM, KTM/Husky Gas. They haven't had a stellar year this year, but I bet you they're sell quite a few products out there. So
yeah. I guess it's just marketing and perception, and some of it's price, right? I mean, the KTMs are up at the upper level of price point now. So, but then that's still like a stock Suzuki for a guy like myself, way more motorcycle than I could ever use.
Sure. I know. Who would think you'd need more out of a 450? I mean, if you can ride that Suzuki 450 at its full potential, then you need to be talking to one of the team managers because you deserve a ride.
Right. But and their price point right now is the lowest of any of the bikes, but yet their sales aren't very good. And I think that is, like you said a little bit ago, it's a little bit of perception of maybe they read the tests in the magazines or whatever, and they go, oh, well, Suzuki's not improving their bikes, and they can't be that good. It's kind of weird.
I know it is. Yeah, I don't understand all the marketing. I'm sure there's marketing guru guys who got it all figured out, but
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty sad to see Suzuki in the state that they're in.
I agree. I hope they bring it back around. I know HEP is, doing pretty well for them, and I think they're getting a lot more support going into 23, even more than they have this year. So maybe they'll continue to get better, but I guess only time will tell.
They quit selling cars here in the U.S., and I mean,
right.
Your money doesn't come, like I said, from motorcycle sales. It comes from other, parts of your company, and now they're getting out of MotoGP next year, and that's a huge deal too.
That's a big blow, I would think.
Yeah, one of the major teams, just won a world championship 2 years ago. Was pulling out. This is horrible.
Yeah, that right there should tell you something, right? You win a championship and then you're pulling out. They're losing money, a lot of money.
Right.
I want to go back to the box fan days just for a minute. I know there's tons of stories. You kind of talked about that. Is there any? There's a history of stories with rental cars and just parties and crazy stories. You got anything you can tell us that maybe you haven't told in a while that you remember?
I mean, I wasn't much into the party scene, but yeah, the rental car stuff. Yeah, there's tons of stories.
Well, give me one good one. Yeah. Give me one about racing one through town, or I don't know, flipping one. You got to be a good rental car story.
Well, I don't want to incriminate myself, so
okay.
I'll incriminate somebody else.
Yeah, how about you heard through the grapevine?
Jeff Stanton and Steve Williamson, we were all three. I don't know if I was in my box then, but they were driving 2 rental cars. We were leaving Unadilla. Steve had just won, and Stanton would always get full coverage insurance.
Of course.
And you didn't want Stanton to be anywhere near your rental car that you were responsible for, because it would probably get ruined. And we were driving through these little towns going, leaving Unadilla, and we almost got in trouble because, the e-brakes would get stuck on and make a lot of noise. And somehow we evaded the police with that. But then later on, we were calmed down on, 4-lane highway, 2 lanes going each direction. And Stanton just rolls up next to Steve and literally, like you see in IndyCar when their wheels touch and one drives over the top of one another, he drove over the top of Steve's hood at like about 60 miles an hour and just parts flying everywhere. And I was like, Steve was in tears. And that's just one of the stories.
What a time to be involved in this sport. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The books that could be written from that
I know.
era.
I wish I would have done that.
Yeah. You still can.
No, I've forgotten more than I remember.
Yeah, that the time nowadays it's a lot more PC. I think
it's a business. Yeah, it's a business nowadays, and it's too much at stake.
And it's funny you look back, like nobody had kids in the pits back then, and now almost everybody does.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody had cameras.
That's true too.
Everybody's got a camera pointed at you.
Right. Yeah, they got to be a lot more careful. That's true. Yeah. Going back to RC, I think it was the Mathis one where you talked about how hard he was on equipment. So I kind of want you to give me a little more about that. Like, what was he the hardest on? What did you have to just constantly change out? Go ahead.
Well, for one, clutches, but there's other riders like Chad that were pretty hard on clutches too.
Yeah.
But we were kind of struggling at first on the 4-strokes, at a couple different companies, making things live inside the engine. He could get the thing so hot. I mean, you really had to be careful what kind of oils you were using or trying. Certain parts, had to be beefed up. They'd never see any kind of failures like what he could do to them. And I mean, one of the examples at Southwick one year on the Suzuki, he, in practice, he's running around the track. Literally, I don't think he let off. He just kind of used the clutch to slow down for a corner. But literally had the throttle wide open, and his muffler caught fire like 2 or 3 laps into it. He came into the pits. What's wrong with my bike? And I'm like, keep going, just take off, get going, because your bike's on fire. We didn't have any fire extinguishers there.
Right.
But he melted the packing inside the silencer and melted the titanium core. And Mitch wouldn't believe it. Mitch kept telling me, there's something wrong with your jetting. You got something going on, something wrong. I ended up giving the number plate to Mitch after the race that was completely burned and melted off the side of the bike. Because the bike would go by and you'd just see a big orange glow from the whole can being that hot. So
That is
I mean, that
nuts.
tells you how hard it is riding a motorcycle.
Yeah, that is so nuts. Yeah, he was a beast, and like I finally got to get to know him just a little bit over the last couple of years, and like his off bike personality does not match the racer of Ricky Carmichael at all.
Yeah, there's lots of stories there too.
I bet. Yeah, I think he's mellowed out quite a bit, you know, which with older age and kids growing up and all that. But It's so interesting how these things change. And speaking of that, would you have ever thought that Ricky and Steve Mathis would become like friends?
Not really. I mean, I don't know how good of friends they are now, but I mean, they had their ups and downs during the racing career, you know, with Steve being on Yamaha. And so, yeah. You know, I think there's a couple incidents with Timmy that Ricky probably maybe regrets, you know, haven't happened, and just things that happen when you're in the heat of the battle. And so, yeah, I'm not so sure how tight he is with Steve now, but
they seem to get along pretty well. Yeah, he actually comes on the show now. He's, you know, he's done that a couple times, and like they seem to get along pretty well. Like they kind of buried the beef, which, you know, Steve really holds on to the story of when Ricky, I think, threatened to shoot him or something, or, you know, in the tunnel. He's held on to that for years, but they let it go, and man, it's like almost unbelievable. Like I would have never thought they'd make up, and they seem really cool now.
That's how it happens in your older age.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like I guess now Stu and Chad and everybody are like, yeah, we talk about going golfing, and like again, would have never thought that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's different when you're competing against them. You know, it's your rival, and I mean, it's just a totally different situation when you're not competing anymore. And he's just, you know, a good guy like I try to be, you know.
That's true, right? Yeah, I have to go back though. When I don't know if you remember when we first met, but it was through Hal Simpson, who was, you know, you were working for Chad. Guy. Yeah, and he one of the best humans on planet Earth, Hal Simpson, for sure. I think it was 2018 at Houston, and like I was in a little bit of awe of you, Goose. I mean, just, you know, I was really, really new to the media scene, and I just grown up watching you, and like you were like one of the best ever. Like you're, in my opinion, in my viewing, and you were just good as gold to me, man. Like you said, just a regular guy, right? You didn't have any, as I said, ego, and man, it really meant a lot. And then a few weeks later, I saw you again at Dallas, and you know, you were out in the parking lot setting up and working on bikes, and we kind of just visited. And like, man, I was like, this is such a cool dude. And so I got to give you props.
You want to treat people the way you want to be treated. So then that's how it works.
Yeah, well, that means a lot to me. I mean, you really are a good guy, man. I feel so lucky to have gotten a chance to meet you, and glad you were back in the sport for a little bit, so I had that chance. Let's move on a little bit. Just in your career, I feel like attention to detail and appearance of the bike was a big thing. Like, how much emphasis did you put into everything looking perfect, spotless? Was that very important to you, or did it just come across that way?
No, it was important to me. And, you know, my riders I work with kind of liked, sorry, something stuck in my throat, kind of liked, you know, having their bikes look, I guess, you know, maybe shiny.
Yeah.
You know, it's different now, but yeah, they enjoyed it. And I spent a lot of time trying to do that. And I guess I liked it too.
Yeah, I think a lot of mechanics do. Like I was at Lakewood and on Friday, and Jordan Troxel had Kenny's bike totally framed, and he was polishing the frame, and like it was blinding. The thing was so shiny. And, you know, to me a little bit, I'm like, it doesn't really matter, but to put that much effort in just shows, again, I think the work ethic, you know, and how much every little detail does matter, though.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it goes back to, you know, being a kid and looking at real work spikes and just looking at every single part. Like, how cool are those parts? You know, now we're working with production bikes, so, you know, you just try to make things look better than the way they come off the production line. Yeah,
and that takes, you have to have that in you, I think. Some guys like me, I wouldn't be very good at that. I'm not that great at the detail stuff. I'm like, it looks good, go ride. Just go ride, damn it.
Yeah, but you weren't getting paid to do that.
That's true too. That is true too. Yeah. Okay. How about this? What was your toughest race or one that you'd like to forget? Is there one that stands out?
Toughest race. God, every race is tough. I mean, it's a nail biter.
Yeah.
Every single race. I mean, there were some failures that I've regret. I mean, you try to prevent a failure, but it's just a machine. Things break, and each one of those you never forget them. That's the toughest part of the job, I think.
Was there
something?
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Breaks that it's kind of out of your control, but it's still you're responsible for it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just a real hard pill to swallow.
But no specific moment that you'd like to have, one in particular that you'd like to have back?
A failure?
Yeah, or just a race. Yeah.
I mean, I feel really bad for Ryan Dungia. Last year in 2011, we were working together. Some of the freak things that happened there. And he just started off, it might have been like a second Anaheim or something. They had a little sand wall jump thing that you basically just slammed into and bounced over in front of the finish line, and his chain popped off just from hitting that thing. And that was kind of the start. And there was like 2 or 3 that year that were just so awkward. It's like, what did we do? What did I do? How are these weird things happening in 1 year,
Yeah. Just wasn't meant to be that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the other failures were just seemed to be far and few in between, but for some reason that year in 2011 with Ryan, we just had some weird, strange things happen.
How about a best moment, or, like you mentioned MXDNs, those have to be really special. Championships are special. Is there one in particular that was the highlight?
I mean, they're all special when you represent the United States. That's a really proud moment when you win. But I'll never forget when we went to Jerez, Spain with Lamson and Jeremy and Jeff Emick. And the one moto, Lamson had like 7 current and past national and world champions in his class. And on a 125, he smoked everybody.
Oh, yeah.
That's one that'll stick with me for a long time.
Yeah, I bet.
Was pretty amazing. A little 125 against 500s.
Yeah, the people that maybe are a little younger don't realize like that difference is much, much bigger than the 250F versus a 450F.
Well, it'd still be like running a 125 two-stroke against a 450 nowadays.
Right.
And not having just regular guys on them. I mean, these were like the top at their time, world champions, national champions, ex-world champions. I mean, the elite of the elite. And you're not talking about a 500, like they are now as far as being production rolled. I mean, you're talking about works bikes. Here we're on a little 125 two-stroke, and people were complaining about how loud our bike was.
Yeah, was that the race? That wasn't the year there was a jump that nobody else was doing?
Yeah, huge jump, and Steve was doing it on 125.
Like a quad, right?
Too. Yeah, some huge quad. It was out of our view, but I see pictures all the time.
Yeah,
it was just massive, and all the Europeans were trying to get the FIM to, change that jump so that they couldn't do it.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
That was pretty special one, but there were plenty more.
Of course there were. Yeah.
Being part of Motocross the Nation is always cool, but most people just don't realize how much work goes into that one race.
Yeah, and
I get mad when I don't get mad, but I mean, sometimes when you see people, telling riders, well, how come you're not going? You should be representing the country, and why don't you do it for the country? There is so much at stake, getting hurt, and so many things you're missing out on testing that your competitors are doing for Supercross, and there's just so much going on for that one race for 2 motos that a lot of people just don't realize what goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the case even just during the regular season. They don't realize what these guys are going through, and sometimes it's unfair pressure. Yeah,
but this is like for just one race.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
the amount of work that goes into it, and the logistics, and just everything that's involved. It's just amazing to go racing one time. The Europeans have it easy. They're finishing their motocross season. They got their bikes over there. They've already ridden all those tracks. They're using the same fuel. They're using the same parts.
Yeah.
everything's different for the U.S. guys.
Absolutely.
Everything. Yeah.
A few more questions for you. Is there something that you really did not like to do on the bike, something that you didn't like working on, didn't feel like you were very good at, that you just dreaded?
Yes. Polishing aluminum frames.
Okay. The details we just talked about.
Yeah. I mean, I'd probably put minimum 2.5 hours into a frame every week.
Wow.
And then once I went back to a chassis with a steel frame, I was in heaven.
Throw a little paint on it and let it go?
Not even, you get it powder coated one time, and then you take it, get it down to the frame, take a brush, some simple green Mr. Clean, spray it on there, brush it off real quick. 10 minutes later, you're blow drying it. You're done.
I love it. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah, the polishing of the frames. I did that on my old bike once, and I was like, yeah, never again.
Yeah.
And
we didn't really polish them with aluminum polish. We just a bunch of different stages, starting with sandpaper and going finer and finer and finer grade, to where just the shine came out, but it wasn't like a polished shine where the thing looks like a piece of chrome.
Yeah,
it was more like getting all the scratches to flow one way, and it's like a brushed shiny look. That's
okay,
cool, but it's just a pain in the butt.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, rubbing polishing compound would be the easiest way to do it, but I'm not into that look.
Yeah, I use Jeweler's Rouge, and it was super shiny. The opposite of what you're talking about. Yeah.
Right. It's totally opposite. Yep.
Yeah. What you did probably looked way cooler than what I did.
Yeah. Too much work, though.
Yeah. All right. 2-stroke versus 4-stroke. What do you prefer to hear, to watch, to work on?
Man, I'm still an old 2-stroke guy.
Yeah, it's pretty sick. I just recently got a 250 2-stroke, and man, it sounds good when it's wound out.
When they're, yeah. I mean, don't take anything away from the bikes nowadays. And, I'm sure you get a lot of people laughing, but, working on a 125 or 250 2-stroke and getting everything out of it and keeping it together, and the jetting that's involved. And I don't know, and the simplicity too, I see so many people now going back to 2-strokes for pleasure riding.
Yeah.
Because, the maintenance costs and everything. And so, yeah, it's tough. I think I like the 2-strokes a little better.
Okay. I like the 4-stroke just for my lack of ability. It helps because you can just point and shoot. But,
but it wears you out too quick.
Oh, yeah. And the 2-stroke, I think I'm going to hopefully learn my technique, get better at that, and make me a better rider. So I've only had it for a few months, and I've only got to ride it a couple times, but it sure is a lot of fun.
Good.
Okay. I have a question from one of the forum members from Vital. PNWMXer would like to kind of the story about the Honda carburetors. You guys came up with a mod when they first came out to help with the, I think the bogging.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've ever said exactly what that mod was. Can you talk about that now?
Well, yeah, you can send me your carburetor to the shop and I'll do one for you.
Okay. Well, that's funny. I have a 06 CRF 450 that probably needs that done.
Oh, yeah. We do so many FCR carburetors. I mean, every single one of them that comes in is, when they're this old, need a lot of attention. So, yeah, but that story is funny because I kind of, learned it from one of our satellite team guys was onto something. We were trying everything, and so I tried it one time, and it was definitely better. And so, my sons and I, we would always go to Mammoth every year. It was like the highlight of our year to do race Mammoth. And when my sons had a 450 and I had done on his bike, and I got to take care of Jeremy's works 450 up there so that I could pretty much get paid for being up there, get my hotel room, and get to go race. So I said, sure, we'll work on Jeremy's bike. So Jeremy was struggling with the thing bogging, especially with the heat and the altitude. And I said, well, come check out Caleb's bike, just on the stand. So he comes over and checks it out, blips the throttle a bunch of times. I put his carburetor on my bike. I said, I can't. You got like a $10,000 magnesium carburetor on your bike.
Yeah.
I can't, I'm not allowed to do that. He said, no, you're putting it on my bike. I'm like, Jeremy, I can't, And anyway, he talked me into it. Didn't even ride the thing. We basically lined up with it. And so he raced with it, won Mammoth that year. And so the next race, I forget where it was at, and Ricky was complaining about bogging. Well, somehow I'd let it slip out that I'd done something to Jeremy's, bike, but put Caleb's carb on there. He said, well, do it to mine. And Cliff White was a team manager at the time, and he didn't go to that race. So
yeah.
Somehow I got talked into doing it on Ricky's bike. And then, of course, crap hit the fan with Japanese found out and Cliff found out. But yeah, and then we did some more extensive testing, and it did work. And I'm sure there's a bunch of people doing it out there, but I don't want to. I'm still making a living, So.
Okay, fair. No secrets to be given away tonight.
Right. I still got to do some of that stuff in my shop. If I told everybody, well, then they would be sending me carburetors.
That's awesome. I love it. I didn't think you'd give it away, but I figured I had to try.
Yeah.
All right. So now I got to ask, do you miss the professional racing, not the travel so much, but being at Supercross, being, on the line with the best of the best? Do you miss that at all?
Sure. It's all the work that comes up to that point, though, to where you're actually lining up.
Yeah.
That's the hard part, and that's a tough grind every week for all these guys, It can burn you out. There's so much work that needs to be done in a short period of time.
Yep.
And you pretty much, it isn't like, well, if I don't get it done today, it's always tomorrow. But tomorrow's schedule won't allow you to do that. You have to complete your job in a certain period of time. And that means all your flights go well. You get off the plane and you're running to the semi truck to go to work.
Yeah.
To get it done to where when the truck leaves the hotel to go to the racetrack, everything's done. You only have a certain period of time to do all that work in. And that's the tough part. Yeah. The racing part, being in the stadiums, being at the racetrack, being with the best guys in the world, I definitely miss that. But that grind, there's not many guys out there that are doing it for super long periods of time.
Yeah, I don't think people realize, and I certainly didn't. And I got a very small taste of it helping you with, CR22 in 2018, where you get there in the morning and you guys were a small privateer team. I think there's 3 or 4 guys at the first race at Houston. And you get there, you got to set the tent up. You got to set all the parts that you guys see when you walk into the pits that look so cool. The mechanics and the team members set that up. And
I don't think that's even the tough part, though. The tough part is being by yourself, or inside of a semi or outside of a semi under a little canopy.
Yeah. And
ripping a bike apart, knowing you it's got to be done before you go to bed or before the next day or whenever it's a lot of work to cram into a little bit of time.
Yeah.
And then the bikes are getting more complicated nowadays. All the electronics on there is just more and more and more work. So that part of it, it's cool to be working on really nice state-of-the-art stuff and seeing it. But it's definitely a grind doing that week in, week out for, however many races that go on.
Yeah, there's a lot.
20-something.
Yeah. Did you enjoy that 2018 season? I know that I think Chad did that 2 years. I don't think you came back in 19.
No, 18 was the last year.
Yeah. Did you enjoy that season, or was that enough? That was one of those, all right, I'm done.
No, it wasn't. I'm done. I kind of knew, that me working on the circuit wasn't going to work. I got lucky enough to where I was with good riders for a long time, and I got to just do my contracts and say, hey, you know what? I'm not living in California. I'll put all the effort in during the race season to be at the shop, to do whatever it takes. But when the truck is gone or my bike is gone and there's nothing to do, I live in a different state.
Yep.
And when you have good riders, you can get away with stuff like that. And so when you don't have good riders, I'm not going to get hired because every one of them wants you to be in, a certain part of the country that I don't want to be in.
Right. Sure. That's a good point. All right. Last question. You talked about working in the shop. What are you doing now? I think are you still running your own business?
Yeah. Running a small shop in a little bitty town in Idaho, and never thought I'd be this busy, but we're well over 2 months out right now.
Wow.
Probably close to 3 months with people in our books. And I work with a guy that I met working through Chad Reed. He was his mechanic on practice bikes and took care of his racetrack and his shop. And
okay.
and then ended up working for the Baker factory and on and on and on. He came out here one time and said, you know what? As soon as my contract's up with Alex Martin, I'm moving out here. And so now him and I run this little shop and just never realized how much work there could be in a small area. And it's, a lot of people say, oh, you got a good reputation, but 90% of these people have no clue or don't even care what it is in the past. They just figure we're getting good work done and, don't get any comebacks and we're trying not to. And they're happy and we're just overloaded. Looking for somebody else to hire, but being in a small town, there's nobody to choose from,
Yeah.
So
yeah. That's great though. I mean, it sounds like you're pretty fulfilled. I mean, you get to come home to the wife every night and enjoy life. And it sounds really good.
Yeah. If you could see my view right now, I'll send you a picture afterwards.
Oh, please do.
That's when I'm just sitting out here on the patio.
Well,
I'll send you a picture. That's where I moved here. I'm not going to get rich. I'm not going to be in the stadiums. Not going to be, working on the coolest stuff. But it's a choice of how you want to live at this point.
Yeah, that's great to hear, man. I think that's good because some guys they struggle with being done with the bright lights and all that, and it's
right.
More so the riders, but even mechanics, that's a really fun lifestyle, and to be able to figure out when it's time to step away and do something different. It sounds like you did it and you did it right.
Yeah, I hope so.
Hey, is the wife happy?
Oh yeah.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Yeah. How are the boys?
They're all doing good. Everyone's doing good for themselves.
Good to hear.
Awesome. Yeah.
Well, Goose, man.
Got my youngest coming up here for 4th of July, bringing his whole family and some of his friends, and it's always a really good time. We do all kinds of crazy stuff when we're up here, and enjoy it.
Awesome. Well, Goose, again, man, I appreciate you having some time for me, man. It really has been an honor and a pleasure to get a chance to know you just a little bit. You made me feel a little bit like part of the team, that just helping out, and me that was fun.
I'm glad.
Yeah,
I'm glad. So, my honor.
It was one of the highlights of 18 for me.
Cool. I'm glad that meant a lot to you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Goose, so much. And
no problem,
I hope to see you maybe in a round or talk to you soon.
All right.
All right. Yes.